Ireland, Crimes and Mysteries with Newells.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you're a returning listener, I want to say a big thank you for your continued support. If this is your first time listening to my podcast, welcome. It's great to have you on board. So without further ado, let's get started on today's story.
Who would ever think that we'd be standing here talking about my sister who went missing 30 years ago? Please come forward with that little bit of information. We need it. We need it now. We're not looking for revenge. The Keenan family never spoke about revenge for the 30 years that I have campaigned. All we wanted was to bring our sister home. Home to rest with my parents. Home to rest with my brother that's in Ballybeg, in the graveyard in Ballybeg.
Today's case takes us to Waterford City. Located in the southeast of Ireland, Waterford, with a population of over 60,000 people, is a medieval city with records dating back as far as 853. It has experienced Viking invasions and Norman invasions, and was declared a royal city in 1171 by Henry II, and the second city of Ireland after Dublin, the capital. To this day, Waterford still retains a lot of its historical sites, including Reginald Tower, which was built in the 13th century after the Anglo-Norman invasion of Ireland. The River Suir flows through Waterford City, and the city boasts a fine harbour. Famous for its Waterford Crystal, Waterford is also known for its culture and events like the Waterford Film Festival, the Spree Festival, and at Christmas time, the Winterville Festival. All these are annual events which attract a lot of people from near and far. And as I said, our story today brings us to Waterford City and to the year 1994. It was here that Imelda Keenan lived in her own rented flat on William Street in the middle of the city. Imelda, who was born on the 24th of March 1971, was 22 years of age in January of 1994. She was originally from Manor Road, Mount Mellick in County Laois, and came from a large family, having 8 siblings, and she was the youngest daughter and a country girl at heart. Her brothers Ned and Jerry were living in Waterford and worked on the trains for CIE, which was part of the Public Transport System Service of Ireland. Imelda was a regular visitor to Waterford and fell in love with the city. She'd been going to Waterford since she was a young child and loved going out to Tramore with her brothers to have fun at the amusement park. Having grown up in a landlocked county, she loved being near the ocean and said that when she was old enough, she wanted to move to Waterford. True to her word, she moved down to live with her brother Jerry when she was 15 years old and finished her education in the Mercy Convent. After finishing school, she moved to Cork for a while and lived with her brother Michael, but her heart remained in Waterford. By the time 1994 rolled around, Imelda had her own flat, her pet cat, and was doing a college course in computing in the Central Technical Institute in Waterford and engaged to Mark. He lived with his parents, but would sometimes stay over with Imelda. They had no date set for the wedding. Life appeared to the outside world to be good for Imelda, but was everything really as it seemed? When Imelda was reported missing on the 3rd of January 1994 by her brother to the Gardaí, after he was made aware that she was missing by Mark, a lot of stuff just didn't add up. Imelda's disappearance was some 10 months after Annie McCarrick's and nearly 2 years before Jojo Dullard went missing. And a lot of the media reports had tried to liken Imelda's case to theirs and include her in the missing triangle group of young women who went missing around this time period. But as we delve deeper into Imelda's story, it just doesn't appear to be the same. The gut feeling with a lot of people is that the answer to Imelda's disappearance lies a lot closer to home. According to her brother Ned, Mark made him aware Imelda was missing on the evening of Monday the 3rd of January, saying that he had not seen Imelda since she left the flat at around 1 p.m. that day. telling him she was going to collect her social welfare or dole payment at the GPO post office. This was the first red flag. The 3rd of January 1994 was the bank holiday Monday of the New Year's weekend, as the New Year's Day had fallen on the Saturday, so the post office was not open that day. Imelda would have received a double payment of her dole the week before Christmas, because over this period the post office was not open. Imelda would have been aware of that fact, so this does raise a few questions. And if she did happen to make the mistake and think that it was the day to collect her payment, the post office was closed from 1 to 2 for lunch. So 1 p.m. was an odd time for Imelda to decide to take the 6-minute journey there. She would have known it was closed at lunchtime, as she collected her dole weekly. As it was a bank holiday, all other shops were closed too. So to her family, this just doesn't make sense. Another factor that perplexes the family is the fact that Mark would often go all day without seeing Imelda. How then, after just 3 hours, did he actually decide to jump to the conclusion she was missing and alert Imelda's brother? The next red flag was the fact that Imelda apparently left the flat without her gold-rimmed glasses. Imelda wore these glasses at all times, as she literally couldn't see without them. The only time she would take them off was when she was getting her photograph taken. She also left behind her cigarettes, her purse, her identification, which she would have needed to collect her dole, and of course her cat, whom she adored. Imelda was described by her niece Gina, who coincidentally was only 7 years younger than her aunt, as being so ladylike. She loved her makeup, was into music, the Bangles being her favourite band, and Imelda was also known to be able to hold a tune. After all, this was not surprising, as she came from a very musical family. Gina also said Imelda kept a diary and would regularly write her feelings into this diary. She said she treated her nieces and nephews like they were her own children. She was very kind to them and loved them all dearly. The family, despite being large, was a tight-knit family, and despite all living in different places around Ireland and some even living in England, they would make the effort to meet up after Christmas or during the summer holidays. She said Imelda always kept in touch, writing letters and sending on photographs. Her family meant the world to her. So for her to just vanish was very much out of character. That Christmas of 1993, none of the family had heard from Imelda, which they could not understand. There had been no reason for her not to be in touch. Gina said she was with Imelda's mother, her own grandmother, that evening on the 3rd of January when 2 Gardaí arrived at her door. This was around 11 p.m. to tell her that Imelda was missing. When they left, Imelda's mother sat down, shocked by what she had just been told. Gina, only 15 at the time, tried to reassure her grandmother, saying she was probably at a party or something and that she would turn up. Alleged sightings of Imelda on the day she went missing were reported to the Gardaí. The first was from Mark, who alleged Imelda left the house at 1 p.m. after washing her hair, putting on her makeup and making him a cup of tea, saying she was heading out to collect her social welfare and wouldn't be long. The second was from a lady who worked in the local medical centre and knew Imelda. She said she saw Imelda crossing the road. This witness said she saw Imelda walking across William Street as she drove from the quay into William Street near the Tower Hotel. She stated that Imelda stopped in the middle of the road to let her car pass. Imelda's niece Gina has said that the family dispute this last sighting. Not that they're saying it never happened, but they question if the lady in question got her dates mixed up, or maybe it was a case of mistaken identity, as they surmise, along with a lot of people, that Imelda was actually already missing before the 3rd of January. Why they think this will become clear as the story unfolds. The last time any of her family saw Imelda was approximately 3 weeks before Christmas, when Imelda met her brother Ned in the Three Ships pub for a chat. He said Imelda had told him that she had presents for his 2 sons, and Ned also gave Imelda her Christmas presents that day too. All these presents were still under the Christmas tree in her flat, when she was reported missing on January the 3rd. Why hadn't she opened her presents on Christmas morning? As Gina said, no one waits until January to open their Christmas presents. A statement I think we can all agree on. Ned had also called to the flat twice over the 2-week Christmas period. He had been hoping to see her before Christmas Day, but when he knocked on the door to her flat, he was met with silence. He said both times he called, the light was on in the flat, but he got no answer. He hung around and waited for an hour in case Imelda would return. Despite finding it odd at the time, Ned wasn't too concerned. So you can imagine Ned's shock when he received a phone call from Mark on January the 3rd saying Imelda was missing. Imelda had sent all the family Christmas cards before the Christmas and said in one of the cards that she would come home to Mount Mellick in January to place a wreath on her father's grave. This wreath was found in the house after her disappearance. The family didn't find it odd that she had decided to stay in Waterford over the Christmas and not come home. After all, at 22 and having a partner, they just assumed she would be with him and meeting up with friends during the festivities and catch up with the family in January. What confuses her family is that if she was out on those nights that Ned called, why has no one come forward to say they were socialising with her? And if she was at home, why did she not answer the door to Ned?
Island Crimes and Mysteries.
When Imelda was reported missing to An Garda Síochána on January the 3rd, the response was slow, to put it mildly. Because of the 2 alleged sightings of Imelda, the Gardaí did not treat the disappearance as suspicious. Her flat, being the last place Imelda allegedly was before she went out that day, was never searched by the Gardaí. The family claimed they didn't engage in many searches. The lion's share of the searches being carried out by the family and the civil defence. The fact that the Christmas presents were still under the tree unopened would suggest she was missing for longer than suggested. But according to the family, the Gardaí did not focus on that fact at all, focusing completely on the witness statements that she was indeed last seen on January the 3rd. The family were the ones to search her flat for any clues, and they were the ones that discovered her glasses were still at the flat, along with her purse and other items she would not leave behind if she intended on disappearing. The one item they could not find at her flat was her diary. The diary that she would write all her thoughts in. This too had disappeared. The family find this very significant as according to them, she would write everything in this diary, her feelings, what she was going through at the time, her relationships. This diary could have revealed it all. But it was nowhere to be seen. Her niece recalls Imelda on a few occasions having either been walking with crutches or wearing a sling, suggesting some injury had befallen her. When she challenged her as to what had happened to her, Imelda responded by telling her she had brittle bones and shrugged it off. At the time, none of the family questioned her answers, which, according to Gina, they lived to regret in light of what ended up happening. But hindsight is 2020, and we all have stuff in our lives that on reflection we regret or would have done differently given a second chance. I'm sure at the time Imelda sounded convincing enough that they didn't feel the need to question her further. Gina did say that now the family believed that someone who knew Imelda was hurting her in the run-up to her disappearance. The Gardaí, as I said, were treating Imelda as a missing person and relying on the witness statements to the extent that the flat was never even forensically searched, or searched at all for that matter. As regards questioning the last person who saw Imelda and interacted with her, that being her fiancé Mark, he was never fully investigated either. No one is saying he did anything to Imelda, but usually the partner or whoever is closest to the person that has disappeared is fully investigated in order to rule them out. He seems to have been taken at his word when he said she left the house at 1 p.m. to collect her dole. He was brought into the local Garda station for questioning, but there was no immediate follow-up to that questioning, and he was never challenged on his timeline of the alleged events. He was asked a few years later to take a lie detector test, but refused. And again, this did not encourage the Gardaí to probe a little deeper or make them suspicious as to why he did refuse. Mark was popular amongst his peers and a member of a local band, which in itself brought a lot of female attention. They were popular at the time around the city, and Imelda was often seen at their gigs. Mark had hinted that Imelda also suffered from depression, a fact vehemently disputed by her family. They said she was happy with her life and loved living in Waterford, loved her computer course and loved her flat. The family have spent years looking for Imelda, 30 now to be precise. They have done countless media campaigns and searches, and every year they hold a vigil at a plaque that was erected for Imelda on a bridge linking Lombard Street with William Street in Waterford City. They were there again this year, January 2024, to mark 30 years since Imelda went missing. But Mark has never been vocal in trying to find his missing fiancée. He has never participated in any media campaigns or searches, and over the years has lost touch with her family. Imelda's mother Elizabeth died in 2008, her brother Ned in 2011, and her brother Donal in 2018. Her niece Gina has taken over the campaign on behalf of the family in the hopes of raising awareness and ultimately finding Imelda and bringing her home. They don't believe she is alive, a feeling they've had since day one. Her bank account has never been touched since she went missing, and as Gina said, when the family got to her apartment on the 4th of January, Imelda was gone and her diary was gone. No one has ever come forward saying they saw Imelda out over the Christmas period after that last meeting she had with her brother Ned. At 22, you would assume in the run-up to Christmas there would be plenty of social gatherings with friends, etc. If this was the case, surely people would have spoken with Gardaí when Imelda's disappearance was made public. The case has now been upgraded by the Gardaí from a disappearance to missing, which to me sounds like the same thing. This is despite pleas from the family for it to be upgraded to murder. The family felt that they have been let down by the Gardaí over the years, that they haven't taken her case seriously. According to Gina, all they have done is taken a few statements from the family and a few other people in her life at the time of her disappearance. They never searched the flat, no interrogations took place. The family, believing that the Gardaí were doing a thorough investigation at the time, did not put any undue pressure on the Gardaí. They trusted they were doing their job to the best of their ability. But the fact they were treating the case as a missing person and not a potential murder case meant that previous evidence that should have been collected at the time has more than likely been lost forever. A few theories as to what might have happened to Imelda have been put forward over the years, such as that she ran away. But the family don't believe this. She had savings in the credit union which were never touched. Gina said Imelda would not even go to England to visit her family that lived there, so she finds it highly unlikely that she would leave for destinations unknown on her own without telling anyone. She said despite being independent, Imelda liked to be close to her family and friends. This was where she felt most at ease, so the chances of her running away are nil. Imelda was a home bird. Also significant is the fact Imelda did not own a passport, so she could not go abroad even if she wanted to. She also stated that if Imelda was alive, she would contact him. There is no way she would let her family suffer all these years and not let them know she was alive and well. Another theory which was touched upon was that Imelda had ended her own life. This completely shocked the family when they heard it. They said there is no way Imelda would do this, and they are very confident that this theory is rubbish. Another factor which goes against it is the fact that there was no trace of Imelda ever found, not even an item of clothing, despite extensive searches on land and water by the family and civil defence. This also ruled out another theory that Imelda had had some sort of an accident. If she did, where is she? None of these theories carry any weight, and the family are extremely confident that this is all they are, theories and not fact. The case went cold for a number of years then, and in 2009 the family put forward a reward for $10,000 for any information leading to the whereabouts of Imelda. This yielded little results. Then in May of 2012, Imelda was in the news again, as a new search for her got underway in Ferrybank, a suburb of Waterford City, in a derelict bungalow after a tip was received. This search, carried out by Trace Missing Persons Ireland, also searched a number of other locations in the area, but again to no avail. The tip turned out to be a false tip. All went quiet for a number of years, despite a fresh appeal by the family on each anniversary. The latest one this year on the 30th anniversary of her disappearance. Gina has now taken on the task of fronting the campaign for her family, along with other members, including Jerry. She has said in the past that she made this decision as her uncle Jerry, who still lives in Waterford, gets very anxious and stressed about the whole situation. He has to pass the plaque every day dedicated to his sister, and over the years it has understandably taken a toll on him. After discussing everything with Jerry, Gina decided to take to social media with all the information they had gathered over the years, and as she said, it just blew up, which is fantastic. Gina said that after the 30th anniversary appeal, a number of people have come forward and statements have been collected. This is the news the family have been waiting for. Maybe 2024 will be the year that they finally get answers. In 2023, a woman came forward to the Gardaí with new information. She gave a formal statement. This woman had known Imelda in the early 1990s, having first met her in 1990. She told Gardaí about a number of disturbing incidents involving a young woman that had taken place in Waterford before Imelda went missing. This witness had moved away from the area prior to Imelda's disappearance and only became aware that she was missing after seeing a programme on TV about missing women in Ireland last year. Despite this new information, a recent meeting with the Gardaí by Imelda's family for an update on the case did not yield the outcome they were hoping for. The Gardaí advised the family that they were still treating the case as that of a missing person and would not be upgrading it to murder, but that the case was under review. The family are disappointed that the case has not been upgraded, but hold out hope that it soon will be. The Gardaí have told them that if any significant new information came forward, that could change. Nevertheless, the family have expressed confidence in the Gardaí, who are now fronting the case, having been assured by them at recent meetings that no stone would be left unturned, and if any new information arises, the Keenans will be the first to know, and they said that they are happy with that. As the family gathered by Imelda's plaque in Waterford at the beginning of January to commemorate the 30th anniversary of her disappearance, it was a sombre day indeed for them. Jerry spoke on WLR radio saying, "Today is a very, very emotional day for the Keenan family and for Imelda's friends and the people here in Waterford who may have known Imelda." He described her as quiet, loyal and full of life. He said that they all still kept Imelda in their hearts and minds, saying, "Imelda was a very quiet, shy girl from Mount Mellick in County Laois who came down here in the late 1980s. She was very shy and she had very few friends. If you got to know Imelda, she was a dainty little young and innocent girl. She kept to herself and kind of went about her business in her own way. She didn't have many friends, but the friends that she had, she kept them close to her. She regarded them as family. Once you got to know Imelda, what a beautiful young girl she was." Jerry went on to say that 2 of his brothers have gone to their graves with broken hearts, not knowing what happened to Imelda. Imelda's mother passed away in 2008, not knowing what happened to her beloved daughter. Jerry said, "She always believed that someday we would get an answer, that there would be word that she was found safe and well. It never happened." Jerry said, addressing the crowd gathered for the vigil, that the family is not looking for revenge. All they want is to bring their sister home and give her a Christian burial. Despite all the setbacks the Keenan family have faced over the years, they remain defiant in their determination to get to the truth. They will never give up hope of finding Imelda until they get the closure they so rightfully deserve. This close-knit family will keep going, fighting for one of their own who is out there somewhere. It may only take one missing piece to solve this case. One person with some small but vital piece of information to bring this family peace. Despite having received lots of false information over the years, this does not derail them. Every bit of information they receive is looked into. Gina has said that 2023 was when the real investigation into Imelda's disappearance started. Unfortunately, she said, we are now aware that the sweet, kind, loving, beautiful young lady that we called Mel was living a life we were not aware of. I know Imelda wanted to have a life in Waterford. She wanted to find love and be happy. She reiterated her desire for the Gardaí to upgrade the case to murder and question every person. A very fair request, I think, at this juncture.
I would like for anyone to come forward. If they saw Imelda at Christmas, if they saw her on St. Stephen's Day or New Year's Day, just to come and tell us, because we don't know where she was for 2 weeks for Christmas. So if she was not out and she was in her flat, why did she not open the door to her brother? You know, that just doesn't make sense to me. And we all know when the post office is going to be open at Christmas. We all know when our next payment is. You know, people, anyone that's on social welfare, like it was a bank holiday, why would she go there? And how, would you know by 4:30 that someone is a missing person if they leave between 1 and 1:30? I just don't feel like it's the truth. And I just want the truth. The family want the truth.
So, I implore you, my listeners, if you do have any information on Imelda's disappearance, if you knew Imelda back in the early 90s or in the run-up to her disappearance, and you remember something you thought meant nothing at the time, but now, on reflection or after having listened to her story, feel it could be important, give this information up. It might be that piece they are so desperately looking for. At the time of her disappearance, Imelda was described as being approximately 5'3" to 5'4" in height, of thin build with long brown hair. Please do the right thing and contact Waterford Garda Station on 051 305 300 or the Garda confidential line on 1800 666 111 or the National Missing Persons Helpline on 1800 442 552. So guys, that's it for today's episode of the Ireland Crimes and Mysteries podcast. Again, thanks for your listenership, and don't forget to subscribe to the show and hit that auto download so you never miss an episode. Until the next time, keep your eyes open and your mind curious. This podcast has been compiled from information gathered in the public sphere, like news articles, documentaries, and open source material that can be found on the web. Everything in this podcast is alleged unless a conviction has taken place.
You've been listening to Ireland Crimes and Mysteries with Nules. Join us for another episode coming real soon.